I don't have to repeat myself as much. At the end of the day, I'm not getting those barriers anymore. I'm not getting people who are like, all right, well, I can't really understand you. Or could you repeat yourself? And that in itself, it just reduces that much resistance on the call. And the lower the resistance, the easier my job.
Welcome back to the Accent Journey, podcast for non-native speakers of American English who want to sound clearer, more confident, and more natural when they speak. I'm Stephen Nelson, your American English accent coach from accentfirst.com. I'm going to take a bit of a detour with this episode as I'm going to interview Sam Rowan, one of my private accent modification students. Sam will talk about his life and why he decided to undergo accent modification training. And at the end, I'll give him some feedback on certain areas of his accent. Now, I could have given him more feedback, but instead I just wanted to mention a few key areas for him to focus on before our next session. Here's my interview with Sam. Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Stephen. How are you doing?
Great, thank you. It's great to have you with us. Sam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like maybe where you're from and how long you've been doing accent training and what your interest is in terms
Yeah,
of modifying your accent?
yeah, of course. I grew up in India. I think for the past 6 years, I wasn't in India, and then before that, I was just living in India.
Mhm.
Didn't really have any specific like accent training. When I did move out, I lived in Canada and really saw the need for, okay, well, changing my accent just to speak to people, so that I could come across as a native speaker more so. And that was earlier stages in the first few years. It was more so just okay because I really wanted to just sound like a native speaker, to really have
Mhm.
as many conversations as I can. Slowly, it started turning into more so for my profession, for sales. And then I believe last year, like that was what, July,
Mhm.
was when I contacted you as I was looking for an accent coach. I was like, I can't do this alone. I need someone. I need the help. And then that was, I think, we did one class and then I got busy. And then I think I contacted you like what, 4 or 5 months later. And then we got started. And we've been training together since.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
intensively. What is your native language, if I may ask, or the language that you know best or speak with your family or friends?
Um, the most I've spoken for the earlier stages. And then it's like Hindi and Gujarati.
Hindi and
Um,
Gujarati, uh-huh.
yeah, even English, though. A mix of all three.
That's so
Um,
interesting. How old were you when you started like speaking English? Or did you kind of grow up speaking all three?
I grew up speaking all three. That's the thing.
Wow.
Like, if you're living in India, like India is like what, third largest English speaking country.
Mm.
I don't know if that helps with the accent. If you want to like become a native, if you want to speak like a native speaker, um, because like you grew up speaking it in a very different way. Especially we have something called Hinglish, which is like a mix of Hindi and English, and
Mhm.
yeah, that's just a completely different thing.
I guess the point is you don't have any problems with the language expressing yourself in English, but perhaps when you
No,
moved to Canada, then you noticed that you didn't speak the same way as other Canadian-born people around you.
yeah, yeah.
And and how did you notice that, or how did people treat you differently, or did you kind of notice something, or did they have trouble understanding your English?
That's the thing. Like I always knew that. All right, I'm gonna be speaking differently um, than the people who were born there. But I did notice people sometimes when they didn't understand a few of the words that I was expressing or
Mm.
the meaning behind a few things, or when I'm talking too fast.
Mhm.
Like I have to repeat myself a lot of times. And then I was like, I can't keep doing that. Like
Hmm.
it just gets annoying. And I don't think it really brings the best start to a good relationship, especially when you're just connecting with someone for the first time and you just have to repeat yourself over and over again, right? So yeah, I mean that's the time when I realized, okay, well, I've got to make that change there.
Part of it was perhaps just slowing down, knowing that you needed to slow down your speech and just be a bit more deliberate with how you express yourself.
Yeah, yeah, and like that took me a while to
Yeah.
understand that I have to slow down.
Tell us a little bit about what you do for a living.
So I've been working in sales for the past what, 2.5, oh, almost 3 years now. At first, it was more so for selling for myself, like as a PT, working in a big box commercial gym. I was just training people one on one, and then I had to sell my own fitness packages. I did pretty well with that from the beginning. So I realized, okay, well, I've got an knack for sales.
Hmm.
And the thing is, sales requires a lot of communication. The only reason I was able to overcome that get barrier between like accent was because of the conviction I had in what I was selling,
Hmm.
and just because of the confidence I had. And that's because like I've always been someone who's like out there, who's able to speak to strangers, especially when I knew what I wanted to talk about. Um, but I realized if I want to do better, if I want to do more, if I want to sell for someone else and not my own personal training or anything, then I need to learn how to communicate better. And a huge part of it was accents.
A huge part of that was the accent.
Yep,
Are you an actual personal trainer?
I used to be.
You used to be a personal trainer.
Yeah, yeah. It's the
Um,
interesting thing. A lot of people in sales start as a PT.
is that right? Why?
Yeah, it's just
How?
most people go into big box gym, easiest job to get into, but not everyone sticks with it. The people who do stick with it are people, okay, well, who sold a lot of training packages, who did well, and then who came to a realization that, all right, well, this isn't gonna work out because I'm only trading time right now for the money, and there's
Right.
only so many hours in the day. Like I
Yeah.
could go into personal to group training maybe perhaps, and then try to expand from there. But then again, I'm still limited. And then people decide, okay, I'm gonna start selling packages for someone else, and then they go into more.
How about results from accent training? Have you noticed anything different since we started working together?
Absolutely, I don't have to repeat myself as much.
Hmm.
It's very different person to person because depending on if there are any words which I'm still working on, which I'm still having trouble with, and if I do come across them while I'm talking to these people, then they might have noticed it or they might not have. But depending on how nice they are, they might just not tell me, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not getting those barriers anymore. I'm not getting people who are like, all right, well, I can't really understand you, or could you repeat yourself? And that in itself, it just reduces that much resistance on the call. And the lower the resistance, the easier my job.
Easier time you have closing the deal.
Absolutely.
Have any other advice for people wanting to modify their accent, Sam?
Well, other than learning from Steven, I would say I would say practicing it every day and just using that accent that you're learning. I mean, not going outside of it, um, not consuming any other resources other than that particular accent, so
Hmm.
that you don't unlearn anything that you're learning, and you don't end up learning some other things, right? Some of the bad habits, quote unquote, um, so that, okay, it's easier for you to learn that new accent.
Great advice. So thank you for that, Sam. I'm sure a lot of people here will find your experience really helpful in their situation. Another purpose of this interview was to give you feedback on your accent as you were talking. So I was taking notes. As always, there are a lot of really great things about your accent that I'm really satisfied with. I've noticed progress with your speech rhythm, particularly stress patterns, your vocal quality is much better, not as high placement. You've got a very deep placement now. So you're speaking in a really low register. But I know that's a conscious choice on your part.
Yeah.
And in general, it works, although it can also draw attention to your voice too if it's so deep. And so I want to make you aware of that. Because what we're trying to do in general with accent training is take attention away from how you say the words, because we want you to just to sound like everybody else. And so they're not thinking about how you're saying it and focus on your message. I do notice some improvement with your sound, words like personal first. With one exception, still the word working. And I think the issue, as we've talked about before, might be the rounded w followed by the less rounded . So let's try this now, Sam. So repeat after me
Yep.
and let's take it slowly. Working.
Working.
Very nice. Remember to be very intentional and conscious with that word and any words like word, world, worry that have that combination. And then other R controlled vowels, such as ear. Pull your lips back to make the ear.
Ear.
Exactly. Ears. Ears.
Ears.
And or, as in born. Remember to have some tight rounding for that or. Try it again, Sam. Born.
Born.
Hmm. See if you can draw that out a little bit more. Stretch that sound out.
Mhm.
Born.
Born.
Good. That sounds really native-like. As well as the A as in day. And as we've talked about, as a diphthong or combination vowel, it stretches out a little bit. You have to put your mouth through the full range of motion to say that diphthong. And when it ends the word, the vowel is longer. So day, so it's not day, day.
Day.
Excellent. Just
Okay.
overstretch it a little bit. Certainly sounds better than underdoing it. Watch your THs. In general, they're in pretty good shape, but for example, third, remember to keep your tongue between the teeth. Third.
Third.
Hmm.
Third.
Also, there should be a voiced z in the word business. So that middle S is a voiced z. Try that again, Sam. Business.
Business.
Perfect. The last thing that I wanted to say is in connected speech, we'll reduce the tu to ta. Don't forget to reduce your tu. Some examples were you said speak to people, not speak to people. Wanted to sound. Job to get into. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast, Sam. It's great to have you here. Any final
Thank you.
thoughts?
Well, that was amazing. Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks so much to Sam Rowan for coming on the podcast and sharing his story with us. The Accent Journey podcast is brought to you by Accent First Speech Communication Services, online at accentfirst.com, and it's hosted by me, Stephen Nelson. Drop us a line at info@accentfirst.com. Our music is Hypnosis by Vendredi. In the next episode, we'll go back to our previous instructional format, focusing on words with ed endings. Until next time, stay curious, stay patient, and keep practicing regularly.